Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy Wreck and Rule Collection Masterdominous. So of course, before we take a look at the figure, let's take a look at the packaging. So of course, up front here we do have Masterdominous, and it's really cool looking mammoth mode and also Leadfoot. I already did, of course, record that review, and it should be up on the channel very soon, or it could already be up right now. So make sure you check out the review after this one. Of course, we have the Legacy logo, we have the Wreck and Rule Collection text, we have Transformers on the side, and of course, if we move to the side here, we do have the Autobot Legacy artwork, and on the back, Leadfoot transforms in 18 steps, and Masterdominous transforms in 14 steps. And of course, if we move to this other side, we do have the Decepticon Legacy artwork, and that is pretty much it for the packaging. Let's now get into the rear. We have Masterdominous, and it's really cool looking at robot mode. Let's take a look at the details, starting at the very top with that head sculpt. Some nice silver for the mouth plate, some nice bluish green for the eyes, and of course some gray for the side of the face. There's also this really cool battle mask done in black. Getting to the first shoulder here, of course, it looks really cool. This is actually the mammoth head. Of course, as you can see, the tusks are actually gone. That does actually count as an accessory, so you can store it here or in the arm. I'll get to that in just a second, but overall that looks super cool. You can actually pick out the teeth there done in silver. Getting to the arms, they are kind of ugly. They're mostly done in gray. There is these two pegs which don't look the greatest, but I can easily overlook that. Getting to the chest here, of course, some nice gold, that wrecker symbol done in blue. We also have the nice rib cage done in black and red. That looks super cool in my opinion, with all the layers looking very nice. Getting to, of course, the other shoulder is completely mismatched, not even symmetrical at all. We have this nice black and gold and spinal design. Of course, the arms are pretty much the exact same thing. The only different part is really the shoulder, and I actually really do like the mismatched look for the figure. Getting down to the lower part, of course, we have this black and gray for the crotch and waist. We also do have this nice bone detailing for the legs and feet, and of course some silver for the toes. That's also really cool. If you move to the back, we actually do have some more spinal detailing. That gold there looking very cool, and you can actually see the other feet of the mammoth mode on the back of the arms, also done in silver. That looks pretty cool back there. Overall, detail-wise, that's pretty much it. Let's now get into the articulation of Masterdominous. So, of course, the head can move all the way around. It's on a ball joint. It can actually look up and down. There's also this battle mask, if you want to count that as articulation. Now, for the arm, of course, both arms, they do look different at the shoulders, but I'm pretty sure the articulation is exactly the same. So, of course, there's a swivel. There's also a hinge out. There's also a swivel at the arm. There's a elbow bend here and here, so there's a double elbow bend. Also, of course, there's a swivel at this section and a hinge back and forth, and if you want to, you can actually move this peg up and down. And that's pretty much it. As I said before, of course, the other shoulder or the other arm is exactly the same. There's also a waist swivel. The leg can kick that far out, of course, that far forward and that far back. There's also a knee bend and an ankle pivot. There is probably more articulation. It's always hard to do articulation, especially in camera and putting it in poses, because of course typically fossilizers are actually very loose where their joints are concerned, which is kind of disappointing, and this figure does have a few loose joints here and there, but overall pretty good articulation for a fossilizer. I'm actually really glad no pieces fell off. Unfortunately, with my spindle copy in the other Wreck and Rule pack, that one is terrible. Pieces fall off all the time. This one is definitely more sturdy in my opinion, but that's pretty much it for articulation. So now down to features and accessories. So of course you can use this battle mask. You can have it up or down. I typically leave it open. I think that looks better in my opinion. Now getting down to accessories, he does come of course with the tusks for the mammoth mode. So you can store it there, or you can actually store it on the arm. So for the configuration, this is actually what you want to have the tusks. You can actually have them pointed in like this, and what you're going to want to do is there is a peg and there is a port on the arm, and you're just going to plug that into place, and there we have him using his really cool tusks, which I think looks really cool. Of course, you could have them slicing and dicing the Decepticons and Predacons, and I think that looks super cool. And if you want to, of course, you can store it on the mammoth head, but what I typically do, of course, is you're going to have to remove them and swap them so you have the uglier side in, because if you keep them how they are, you'll have all these empty gaps facing out. That's typically what I do. I typically do not like the ugly side out. Some people don't care, they'll just do whatever, but what you're going to do is, of course, there is a port and there is a peg, and you're going to plug that right into place. So you can have it sticking out like that, which I think looks pretty cool. Of course, it will jut out quite a bit on the shoulder. It might make him a little bit side heavy, so I typically will store it on the arm for a claw, which looks pretty cool. So that's pretty much it for the robot mode. Let's now get into some down to our first comparison, of course, mold-wise between Ragdolite and Masterdominous. There's actually quite a bit of changes, as you can see, of course, head sculpt-wise, completely different. Getting down to the shoulder here, they are completely different in design and sculpt. And of course, accessory-wise, they're completely different. He comes with this big spike piece. Masterdominous comes with his huge tusk section, which is pretty cool. I think a better accessory in my opinion. And getting down to the other shoulder, it is the exact same sculpt. Really, you can actually store the shoulder in two different configurations. You can actually store it like that or like that. And due to the instructions and the packaging, Masterdominous has his shoulder like that. And I typically will store Ragdolite's like that. That's just because I like how it is right now. And of course, getting down to some similarities, as you can see, the whole torso and chest section is exactly the same, as well as the legs. And now getting down to the arms, this is kind of interesting and a little bit hard to explain. So as you can see, the arms are very similar just at the base, but this added piece is of course a brand new sculpt. So you can actually remove this if you want them to be more similar, but of course with that off, the only change is of course there is a new added peg there. So if that was gone, they would be the exact same, or just of course this new added little peg piece. But that's actually really only used for the Mammoth mode, so if you did not want it in this mode, you could probably just take them off and leave them off to the side if you wanted to. But mold-wise, that's pretty much it. There's quite a few changes, and of course there's several similarities, as really of course where the legs and the chest are concerned. And now for another quick comparison, here he is with Trichronicus, the other version of this mold. And between these two, the only change is really down to the shoulder section. Of course, the dino head is slightly changed in sculpt where this top section is, but everything else is the exact same thing. So between these three versions of this mold, which one is your favorite? My favorite has to be Masterdominous. I love the whole mammoth vibe and look to it. It looks super cool. Probably my second favorite would have to be Trichronicus. I love the whole molten lava rock look. Looks really nice. Please do let me know, of course, in the comments which one is your favorite. Let's now move on to another quick comparison. Here he is with his packmates, Leadfoot. And I do have to say, probably, this is my favorite pack from the Rick and Rule Collection subline. That's just in my opinion. Of the packs, which one's your favorite? Do let me know in the comment section down below. That's pretty much it for the robot mode. Let's now get in transformation into the mammoth mode. Now get down to transformation into the mammoth mode. So what you're going to do is separate both arms from the main body, just like that. And then we're going to work on the arms. So just separate, of course, the arms from the shoulder. And then what you're going to want to do is get this new added piece and attach it to this. So just make sure all this, of course, nice detail is aligned up, because I typically, of course, have all these ugly pegs and ports facing in. So what you're going to want to do is have and make sure the pegs are facing up, and you're going to attach it into that peg right there, just like that. Do the same thing with the other arm, of course. Separate this from the shoulder, just like that. We can put that off to the side. Get this new added piece, and of course plug this into place just like that. Make sure everything, of course, is facing the right way, so just plug that into place. Make sure the pegs are facing up. And there we go, we can straighten everything out. And now what you're going to want to do is separate the legs from the torso. You can also get the battle mask, fold that in just like that. And now for the legs, you're going to get this other shoulder piece. You can fold this out, and there of course is a port and there is a peg. You're going to plug that into place. I would advise not to plug it in all the way, because I did that one time, the first time I was transforming this, and it was impossible to get out. That of course just could be my copy. I'm not really sure, but I was really worried I was going to snap off that peg, so be careful with that. Now what you're going to want to do is get, of course, this peg and this port, plug that right into place, just like that. And of course you can angle the legs however you wish, have them a little bit hunched like that if you want to, have it more of a dynamic pose. There we go. And then what you're going to want to do is get the head there. Of course, there is a peg and a port at the front, and just plug that into place. And there we have Masterdominous in his really cool looking mammoth mode. Here we have Masterdominous in his really cool looking mammoth mode. Let's take a look at the details. Starting at the very end, of course, with that head sculpt. That looks super cool. I think they did a really good job with this mammoth. Of course, the huge tusk done in that nice gray. Very sharp looking very, very cool. Of course, we have the whole skull section of the mammoth. You can actually open the mouth and see some teeth in there, which looks very cool. This whole spinal section up top, which goes from from, of course, gray to gold, looking very cool all the way down. I really don't like this back section. Unfortunately, there is really no tail, so there's a little backstory to this. Of course, with Ractonite and Trichronicus, they didn't come with this new added tusk section. Of course, they came with that little spike tail piece, which of course would go there and form the tail for this mode. So unfortunately, of course, there is no tail. It's kind of just like a little nub or a peg there, which looks kind of ugly, but really towards the front half of it actually looks super cool. I can easily overlook that. I really do wish maybe they did that a little bit better, but it doesn't bother me that much. Of course, getting to the ribcage section, we have that nice black and red design, getting that gold. And on the bottom, of course, we have the legs here, very bony and scrawny. Done in that silver for the toes, and of course, very bony, and looks very cool and creepy. And yeah, I think they did a really good job with this. I would really be interested if they did some more mammoth or maybe like a saber-toothed tiger, prehistoric bone one. That'd be pretty cool for the fossilizers. I really do hope they continue making these. I know some people don't like them. Yes, they do have a few problems. I wouldn't say they're perfect figures, but I think this one looks very, very cool. Let's now get into a quick comparison here. Masterdominous is, of course, with Ractonites, the original. As you can see, sculpt-wise, they're actually very, very different. Really down to, of course, the head sculpt is completely different. Really, the similarities are really where the rib cage and the back tail piece are concerned. As you can see, of course, Ractonite does have that tail piece. I really wish maybe this figure did include that, because I think it would have looked a lot better with it, because it looks kind of weird without it, in my opinion. But that looks pretty cool side by side. And just quickly bringing out the other Trichronicus. As you can see, of course, pretty similar between Ractonite and Trichronicus, but between those two and this one, there is some major changes. And definitely my favorite has to be Masterdominous. I think they really knocked it out of the park with this one. And these two are very good. I really like the whole mammoth mode. That looks super cool. I don't think I've ever had like a mammoth Transformer figure before, and I hope they make some other unique dinosaurs in the future. That'd be pretty cool to see. That's pretty much it for the comparison. Let's now get into articulation of the mammoth mode. So, of course, for the head, there is a hinge here. There is a swivel. Also, of course, you can move the mouth open and close. And if you want to, of course, you can remove this if you want to. You can also angle these tusks however you wish. Now, getting down to the leg, of course, there is a swivel. There's a hinge here. There's also another hinge here. There's a swivel. There's also another hinge here. And, of course, there is the same articulation on the other leg. As for the back legs, it is slightly different. Of course, there is a hinge out and in. There's also a knee bend and an ankle pivot forward and back. And of course, there is also a swivel at this gray hinge right here as well. And getting down to the, I guess, sort of tail or the back section, there is a slight rock back and forth, but that's really due to, of course, this is being the shoulder. And there is a slight hinge here and hinge here. So you can kind of barely move the back section. And overall, I think articulation for this is pretty good. Most of it is really the same because these are actually the arms from the robot mode, so not much has changed there. And of course, these are the legs of the robot mode, so not much has changed there as well. But this mammoth mode looks super cool. I think that's pretty much it for this mode. Let's now get into the transformation into the weaponized mode. So of course, you can separate all these pieces and actually attach them to a figure. So I'm just going to quickly do that. I'll show it on Leadfoot, of course, the Packmates in this, of course, bundle. I'm going to quickly do it. Not a lot of time going to be put onto this because it's not, of course, I would say the most interesting mode of this figure. Let's now get into the weaponized mode for Masterdominous. So what you're going to want to do is get the head of the mammoth mode. You're going to get the tail or the shoulder from the robot mode. You're going to attach that into there like that. And then what you're going to want to do is get one of these new added pieces, and you can just plug this into place. And there we have one of the weapons all complete and done. We can just put this right there for now. We can move on to the next one. So now what you're going to want to do is get the whole legs from the robot mode. You're going to get the arms from the robot mode. You're going to attach these in there like that, which can be a bit difficult. There we go. Same thing, of course, for the other one. Plug that into place. And there we have these big grabber things. Not really sure what these are supposed to be, but you're going to attach these onto his back. Now let's move on to the last weapons. What you're going to do is get the whole head. You can hinge this whole section down like that, and then you're going to get the tusk section. You can plug these into place like that, and then you can get this new added piece. There is a peg, and of course there is a port, and you're just going to plug this into place, and there we have the last weapon done. Let's now, of course, attach these to his Packmate Leadfoot. So let me just quickly bring him out here like that, and there we go. So now what we're going to do is start at the back. So let me just move to the back here. We can get these big grabber sections. Not entirely sure what these are supposed to be, but you do plug these on his back like that, and of course you can hinge these down like that if you want to. The good thing is it seems like Leadfoot can actually take the back weight, which is good. And then of course you can put either weapon in each hand. I'm going to plug this one in his hand. I think this is supposed to be like a whip or something. I'm not entirely really sure. That's my best guess. And there we go. And then we have this big scythe blade section, which you can just plug right in his hand like that. You're just going to use this peg, plug that in his hand, and there we have him fully weaponized. I'm pretty sure that's how it's supposed to look. It's okay, of course. I have seen better with other fossilizers like Wing Fingers, and Paleotrix is actually quite like this one. Not the greatest. I'm not really sure what these top sections are supposed to be. I think they've been pretty cool. I think you probably can, if you want to, you could actually disconnect these pieces and actually attach them to those if you want like a huge spike up there. But this is, of course, how it is supposed to look according to the instructions. Not the greatest. I typically don't even pose my figures in this mode anyway, but I just wanted to quickly show you what the mode showed in the instructions. But that's pretty much it for this figure. Let's now get into the final thoughts of Masterdominous. Let's now get into the final thoughts of the Transformers Legacy Wreck and Rule Collection Masterdominous. Starting in the Mammoth mode, I think this is a really good looking Mammoth mode. I do have one minor complaint. I think the tail could look better. It does look kind of weird. It's like just a small little peg. It'd be nice if they included that same spike piece that came with Trichronicus and Reginite, so you could actually have a full complete tail. I know they were going for sort of a bony, small look, and it just looks kind of weird with that big peg there. I know that is part, of course, the robot mode. It is needed to be included in that piece, or really the robot mode would not work, but it'd be nice maybe if it included an extra little tail piece to be put there, but I know it'd be hard to place, it would be hard to store that somewhere on the robot mode. But still, that is just a matter of complaint. I think the whole head and tusk section actually looks super cool, like the whole ribcage section, and the legs look super cool. You can actually position them several different ways, so of course you can have them having a little bit higher up or angled up more like that, or of course you can have them like running or charging at some Decepticon or Paragon, so I think it looks super cool. Getting down to transformation, of course, from Masterdominous' Mammoth mode to robot mode, of course, it's pretty straightforward. You really just kind of rip them apart and just rebuild them. There's really not much, challenge or anything. You might need to use the instructions once just to get it down, but it is very similar to Ractonite and Trichronicus' transformation. Overall, the robot mode actually really works. I don't really like the hands that much because, of course, there's two pegs now, and of course, Ractonite and Trichronicus already had one in their previous versions. And there's a new molded piece, of course, a part of this figure that's not on theirs. So that's kind of unfortunate, but you can actually remove that piece, so if you're really bothered by it, of course, in the remote mode, whenever it's there, whenever you have it on display, you can just take those off, put them off to the side, but you do be aware, if you take those off, there will be two other big pegs sticking up, so it's really just kind of pick your poison sort of situation. I actually really do like how you can use the Mammoth tusks. Of course, you can store them on the shoulder, or you can use it as a really cool, like, sort of Wolverine claw accessory, which I thought was pretty cool. I do like how you can actually take them off. I was wondering when this was first revealed, can you actually separate the big tusks from the piece? And yes, you can. So you can actually use this in several different ways. Of course, you could actually give them to other characters and have them hold them like swords or giant blades or something if you wanted to. So there's actually quite a bit of playability factor. Getting down to the weaponized mode, definitely my least favorite of the weaponized modes so far. From the fossilizers, of course, I could be wrong because I actually really never transform my fossilizers into those modes. I do it like once for the review and never really do it again because I'm not really a big fan of it. I really get the figure for, of course, the beast mode and, of course, the robot mode because those are really the best. I think they do a really good job with those. It did seem kind of like the weaponized mode was sort of an afterthought. I don't really remember what Ractonite or Trichronicus' mode looked like. I don't know how different it was or if it was the same thing. They just, of course, slightly tweaked it because there's some new molded pieces, but not my favorite look. Look kind of weird. I think it would have been better. Maybe you can do this if you want, but there's this whole big top sections on his back. You could actually get the talons or the tusks from the front section of the head, of course, of the mammoth, and you can actually plug those in there to have them like super long, big knife pieces. I'm not really sure, but not the greatest, but of course, both modes, the mammoth and the remote, actually, I would say are a big success, and I highly recommend to get this figure. And honestly, going into the set, this was, of course, my main, attraction to it. This was the figure I really, really wanted, but I actually am pleasantly surprised. I actually really do like Leadfoot a lot. I think this is definitely, I would say, the most successful pack. Both figures are pretty strong. Yes, there's a few problems or, minor cons to each of them, but I have to say these two figures are probably the most solid, and I like the most out of this whole collection. Let me know what you think of Masterdominous in the comment section down below. I have seen a lot of people actually sell this one on eBay. I actually really do like it. Let me know what you think of this figure in the comments. And of course, I do have Leadfoot's review already recorded, so it could be up on the channel right now, depending on, of course, when you're watching this review or whenever I post it. So make sure you stay tuned on the channel to see, of course, this review and Leadfoot's. And of course, let me know what you think of Leadfoot in the comment section down below. Which one is better, Leadfoot or Masterdominous, or will you, of course, like them equally? Just let me know in the comments. And that's pretty much it for this review, and I'll